Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new-ish Marvel Legends Iron Man Mark III, part of the Infinity Saga in the special packaging, standalone release type stuff. And this is probably, I'm just going to put it out there right now, the best Mark III Iron Man figure to date from Hasbro. It's definitely the best in my opinion. However, it is still riddled with things that could be so much better, and some things that are definitely not so good. So there's definitely plenty to talk about, so let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 6 3/4 inches tall, which makes him pretty close to 17.5 centimeters, just about. And before we get into the rest of the review, I want to do a quick question of the day. Simple question, I've asked it tons of times, but maybe your opinions have changed. Which movie Iron Man suit is your favorite? I really do like the Mark III, the classic Mark III from the first movie. Very, very nice design. However, the Civil War suit is also very good. And same thing with Ultron. I like those two suits a lot. Okay. Aesthetics on this guy. It is definitely the best one they've released. However, there's one crucial thing, one glaring thing that's, it's kind of like two, but really just one, stands out to me as needing improvement. The connection at the arm, which is essentially the whole shoulder, because they got a lot of the bulk in the shoulder out of the shoulder pad, which is a separate add-on piece. His shoulders themselves are very tiny, and that connection to the body is obvious, it's apparent, and so you have what is a very, very tiny spot, which really should be that whole area filled in. And it makes him look super weird when he's just standing there, unless his arms are straight down, but even then, it's very strange how tubular the body is and how disjointed the arms are from the body. Maybe that's hard to tell on camera what I'm talking about, but you'll see it in person if you buy the figure, and probably, I'm hoping you can tell now, but it doesn't have the right shape. He doesn't have the same bulkiness in the upper torso that he had in the movie because of the way the arms are connected, and also the fact that the arms are very thin, relatively speaking, and also they're too short. It just doesn't have the right look overall. Now you can pose away some of that, but it is definitely an issue. The other thing that I note is that the colors are maybe questionable. I'm going to have to get a screenshot from the first movie again because it's been so long since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure the red's not quite right, and the gold is also not quite right. So it's throwing it off a little bit for this kind of like, I'm guessing this is the last one of the Mark III they're going to be making. So you would assume that, and it came in the special box with accessories and stuff, and so I'm assuming this is like supposed to be the ultimate Mark III, and it just seems to be lacking in quite a few areas from the aesthetic standpoint. Articulation they mostly got down, but we'll get to that in a minute. So aesthetics, it's all just red plastic with the gold painted, the arc reactor painted, which is nicely done, and then just a few little details here and there. Not too much, it's very, very basic. The red is just not the right red as far as I can tell. It looks like plastic, and I don't remember him looking like he was made out of plastic. I don't remember it being glossy. It's like there's no metallic quality to the red on this guy. So to me that's wrong. I don't remember. I could be wrong. Maybe it was more gloss rather than just metallic. But to me it still looks too much like plastic. I will say though, this is the best Mark III head we've seen. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. The eyes are white, that's nice. The face is clean. So yeah, it's overall solid. I'm just pointing out that it would look so much better if they had nailed these shoulder pads. The shoulder pads themselves and the arms connecting to the body and the arms. I don't know if you guys are able to tell. Maybe it doesn't look as bad on camera, but his arms are definitely short. Like his knuckles are above his crotch. And I get that he's in a suit, but it still needs to look right, and it doesn't. His torso is very long. Very, very long. So yeah, definitely not perfect, but it is probably the best one. So if you're a fan of the Mark III like me, it's probably your go-to at this point. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's good, but if it wasn't the best one ever, it wouldn't be that good. Does that make sense? I think it does. Okay, now as far as accessories go, we obviously have the helmeted head and the unhelmeted head, which is an acceptable likeness for Robert Downey. I think that looks pretty good. The paint job on the visor is still nice and everything. So yeah, I like that. That's nice. We do have the two fist hands that come in the package, and we have some repulsor hands, which don't hold accessory blasts. They're just painted, which I'm okay with. I think more often than not, people are going to want to have the painted hands rather than the actual effect parts in this case, because the repulsors aren't something that you always have showing, the actual blasts. So I like that. I would like an alternative set with the blast effects, but that would probably be too much. We do have the removable forearm piece, which does have the two little, they look like 50 caliber rounds rather than little missiles or anything, but you do get that, and you get the little shielding thing that he uses at the end of the movie. So that's pretty cool. And that's it for accessories. No flight accessory, no repulsor blasts at all. I do think that's lacking for a release like this, especially since they already have the molds. I think they should have churned out a few repulsor blasts and some hands for us to use them, and for the feet. To me, this is a lacking release for being what it is. So I'm still only going to give it it's still a good review. Like, it's still a good release. So 8 out of 10. We have alternate head and a couple hands and other things. So that's good. But we definitely should have gotten a little bit more in this version, this release. We have the peg holes in the feet. We could have had the hands. I'm pretty sure they could have swapped on some hands from another figure. They've definitely got enough Iron Man hands that it would have worked, I think. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. The head. Well, here's the thing. The head is obviously interchangeable, and when you try to interchange the head, it tries to tear the neck out. Look at that. It is doing it. It's doing it. It's tearing both parts of the neck out. And I'm letting it happen for you guys. So not only did it tear out the neck itself, but it also tore out the collarbone, which you can glue back in. It's keyed and everything, but that's a difficult situation when you're trying to change the head out and the whole body falls apart. So that's not great. But it is a double ball peg for the head, but they didn't do a good job with it. You can see he doesn't look up very far, and it's incredibly gappy. And you can see right inside the head. Obviously, you're going to be able to see in if you lean the head all the way back on any kind of joint, but they didn't do a great job with the double ball peg. It's very gappy all the way around. Granted, it's functional. Like, he can look like he needs to. And he looks badass from a 3/4 view. I have to say, it looks pretty good. Shoulder pads still look a little weird. But yeah, it's like the joint is acceptable for being a double ball peg. It's pretty bad though. And when you try to swap out the head, that's not good. Not a good situation. Luckily, it doesn't do any lasting damage to the figure, but you don't really want the head to rip the neck out. Alright, so for the shoulder pads, they are just connected. Oh, by the way, the shoulder pads are made out of that material that gets that white stuff. It's like a soft PVC. You get that white plasticizer leaching out. So that's not really a great situation, but they are in a separate piece, and it's just a rubber ring, soft PVC ring in there with the shoulder, so they'll move with the shoulder if you want them to. So that's good. That's definitely the way you want to do that. I think it would have been better to use a harder plastic, but they needed to flex. I think they just, maybe it's a bad mix. I don't know. There's something weird about it that the PVC is very soft, and it does leave that white stuff on your fingers and on the figure. But it does work. As you can see, having the shoulder pads connected to the shoulder, or at least rotating with the shoulder, is how you want to do it. The way they have it flexing is good. Probably would have been better if it was able to flex over this part. Instead of going down on the bicep, it should have gone up and over the shoulder. So it probably should have been connected down here underneath the shoulder rather than above the shoulder. If you connect it on here, it rotates with the arm obviously, but also flexes up this way rather than down the arm. So little things like that, it's like, I don't know why they don't do that. It doesn't really make sense, but I mean, this works well enough. That's fine. Obviously, you can rotate it all the way around, so that's good. Bicep swivel does work. Double jointed elbow does work. It is pinless. People said, a couple people mentioned, how come you don't mention the lack of pins anymore in the figures? Like, because it's in a bunch of the figures. I'm not going to mention it every time. It's not like I talk about the pins every time. And pinless joints aren't even a new thing, so I don't know why that's such a big deal. But yeah, he does have pinless joints, or pegless joints, whatever you want to call it. I guess a pin would be the right term. We have the hinge in the wrist, but that's going to be just about worthless. And the repulsors are not painted in any way on the fist hands, not that that's a big deal. Alright, for the torso, he leans back well enough. It's not too bad. He leans forward a little bit. It's not too bad. Side to side is really good. And you get your full rotation. And that's it out of the torso. For the hips, we do have the hinged ball pegs, which is interesting because if I leave it up and I bring the hip forward, or the leg forward, I'm leaving it all the way up, making sure it doesn't come down, you get that much range. Okay, that's without dropping the hip. Now if you drop the hip and bring it up, you get that much range. It's virtually nothing. I don't know why they bothered to do that. And going out to the side, that's how far it goes without dropping the hinge. See how close it is to the hand. And then if I drop it, yeah, it doesn't go any farther. You can't, because the way they have the cutout in there, the way that's cut out, it doesn't have any more range when you drop it down. You're just using that actual hinge in there, which is relatively floppy, to move the leg. So, terrible implementation, honestly. Like, they don't even go up far enough to get rid of the gapping. So we've got huge gapping, and hinged ball pegs that don't work. They don't afford virtually anything. Well, they don't afford anything out to the side, and going forward, it's almost nothing. So there's still way too much gapping in there, and he's got really, really wide hips. This is one of the worst things about the figure. I didn't mention this earlier. I forgot to. His hips are really wide, very big thigh gap, and narrow shoulders and chest. So it does hurt the proportions of the figure significantly. If it wasn't for the shoulder pads themselves sticking out, he would look really weird. But look how wide the hips are relative to the chest. Big bummer. Where's my... Oh, I already put the other Iron Man away. I can't show you the other one. It's just not great having wide hips. It never looks good. Superheroes shouldn't have wide hips and narrow shoulders. You do get a thigh swivel, obviously, which is really good, but super bulky, super chunky. Don't know why they did that. There's so much meat over here and such a narrow chest, it makes it not look great. For the knees, they're humongous. It's a double jointed knee that is ginormous. Look at how much extra there is. There's so much plastic in there. They could have cleaned that up a little bit. At least it looks decent while it's standing, but his knee pads are huge. I don't remember his knee pads being that huge in the movie. So, yeah, I don't know about that. It's not bad, but for a release like this, I expected this to be like, ooh, a really good release. Kind of like the Mark 7 they did, which was just phenomenal. This one is very lacking. It is definitely a disappointment in that it should have been a lot better. For the ankles, we do have actual ball hinges, and the feet go back pretty far. This is a soft piece, and it's hollowed out in there for the heel to tuck in. But going forward, it's not hollowed out really at all. You can't bring the foot forward. Can you see in there? I don't know if you can see in there. There's no gap. There's no room. You can bring the foot forward this far, and that's it. Whereas back here, I'm doing this all on camera, I can't really see what I'm doing. There's a giant opening for the foot to tuck in. So why can't we bring that? Why didn't they do that going forward? You can't bring the foot forward. Is this a Robot Damacy figure? I don't get it. But you do get the ankle rocker out of it, which is a thing most of the Iron Man figures haven't had, so that's cool. But not being able to bring the foot forward definitely sucks, and there's no toe hinge either, so you're just leaving him flat-footed, which kind of blows. So yeah, this is a fairly disappointing release for being what should have been like the ultimate Mark III release. It is, but only by virtue of the other ones being bad. So it's definitely a kind of a bummer of a figure. So articulation-wise, 8, I guess. Everything works. No, 7. The hips are bad. The hips are bad. The neck could be better. Yeah, 7 is all it's going to get for articulation. Okay, final verdict on this release for what's supposed to be like the best Mark III release. It is, but they kind of rested on their laurels there and didn't do what they should have done for some things, and it wouldn't have cost them any more. It's all new stuff. They could have just made it work better in the first place. It's not like they needed new molds. They just needed to make the molds right. So, like, the hips not working is a big problem. The ankles not working is a big problem. The head not working is a big problem. The shoulders being too small is a big problem. The arms being too short is a big problem. So there's a lot of big problems here, and they all could have been fixed easily. So I'm going to give this guy a final verdict of only a very generous 7 out of 10. It is the best Mark III. I'm happy to own it personally, but from a reviewing standpoint, there's a lot wrong that shouldn't be. So you guys can let me know how you feel about that, and you can let me know if you liked the video by giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and let me know why you gave it a thumbs down in the comment section below. So thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed, I might have new videos almost every single day. I'm getting back to it. I have so many reviews on deck right now that I should be able to get them out almost every day going forward. So I do have that, and then I do have the thousands of videos already on the channel for the days I don't upload, so you can come back for all of that stuff, and in the meantime, keep collecting.